If you'd like to turn your hard-earned cash into even harder-earned gamer score, you'll want to tuck into some of the amazing titles in this week's Achievement Hunter sale. And while we're talking about great games, this video is brought to you by WB Games MultiVersus.
If you're looking to catch some rays while you scrounge up those achievements, then Far Cry 6 is the perfect place to do it. Set on the gorgeous island of Yara, this is prime sightseeing territory, especially in 4K Ultra HD on the Xbox Series X. Although you won't be able to spend all day admiring the sun-dappled scenery, you do have a brutal dictator to overthrow after all. With its wacky homemade weapons, animal sidekicks, and explosive backpacks, Far Cry 6 is an over-the-top adventure that's sure to keep you smiling all through the summer. And now it's 60% off too.
Resident Evil Village lets you seek out some achievements in a decidedly less sunny corner of Eastern Europe. In fact, some of the locals here are actually looking suspiciously pasty. From towering vampires to growling wolfmen, the latest Resident Evil game throws everything in its big evil book at poor Ethan Winters as he desperately tries to get his daughter back. Although this is a more action-oriented affair than some of the classic games, so at least you'll be able to give a bit back to those undead losers. Speaking of the classics, you can follow this up by checking out the new next-gen updates for Resident Evils 2, 3, and 7. Then of course there's the shiny new Resident Evil 4 remake, which is coming next March. Between that and this scrumptious 50% discount, it's just a really good time to be a Resident Evil fan.
But if you're looking to really test your achievement hunting abilities, then you should definitely give this next game a spin, Trials Fusion: The Awesome Max Edition. This physics-based platform racer sees you trying to speed your way across a series of deadly courses, pulling off death-defying jumps, bounding over obstacles, and generally trying to stay upright along the way. It's the perfect game for all you aspiring daredevils, and it also contains one of the gnarliest achievements of all time called Is There Anything You Can't Do?, which involves completing 120 different challenges. One of them even involves turning your bike invisible, which honestly just seems like a deeply irresponsible use of cloaking technology. But if you reckon you've got what it takes, Trials Fusion: The Awesome Max Edition is now 75% off.
If you love the freedom of choice provided by an RPG, but accept that 9 times out of 10 you're going to pick the option that involves making something explode, this week's action RPG sale should be right up your alley. Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of the games that's so vast and filled with possibilities that you could spend the rest of your days riding around its sun-baked plains without seeing everything it has to offer. In its dynamic western world, there's always something going on, whether it's a bounty to hunt down, a bear to watch out for, or just a new saloon to check out. The game might be set at the very end of the cowboy era, but there are still plenty of adventures left to be had in Red Dead Redemption 2, and the Ultimate Edition is now 65% off into the bargain.
Also in the action RPG sale, we have a bona fide Xbox cult classic, the one and only Alan Wake. Or at least it will be the one and only until the sequel arrives sometime in 2023, just a decade or so after the original shook us all to our core. I personally can't wait, and am also absolutely petrified. Until then, players can revisit the harrowing tale of this haunted horror writer with the gloriously remastered version of the original game, featuring fully remade cutscenes, 4K visuals, and both of the game's story expansions. This is the definitive version of the Alan Wake experience. Now 40% off, this is the perfect opportunity for newcomers to check out one of the creepiest games in Xbox history, and for old hands to refamiliarize themselves with the terrors of Bright Falls just in time for the next chapter in Mr. Wake's story.
If you'd prefer to face your fears head on and with a few buddies and a whole load of bullets by your side, then Back 4 Blood might be the way to go. Available now on Xbox Game Pass, this zombie-slaying shooter pits you and your fellow cleaners against the undead horde in a more action-packed take on the classic Left 4 Dead formula. And while there is already a mountain of walking corpses for players to blast their way through, the Turtle Rock team have been sure to keep things fresh with DLC expansions like the Terrible Tunnels that arrived a few months ago, or the cultist new act that they've been teasing recently. So basically, you're unlikely to run out of zombies to bash or things to bash them with anytime soon. So at 55% off, you can consider Back 4 Blood a very solid investment for the future.
The magical realm in which Dragon Age Inquisition takes place, Thedas, is an area with a lot of very complex problems involving age-old rivalries, thorny land disputes, and complicated cultural differences. But then it also has some very straightforward problems, like the big hole that's opened up in the sky and started spitting demons everywhere. In any case, it's up to you and your merry band to go around fixing it all like a broadsword-wielding Bob the Builder. How you go about restoring order to the world and who you sacrifice along the way is entirely up to you. Dragon Age Inquisition is a fantasy epic that lets you fill up its final pages, making choices over the course of the story to decide the fate of its world. But since this is an action RPG, you'll also get to cleave plenty of skulls and cast plenty of spells along the way. Available on Xbox Game Pass courtesy of EA Play, Dragon Age Inquisition is also 80% off in this week's sale.
Of course, sometimes you get a major craving for a new game right when your funds are at their lowest. It's an undeniable sign of cosmic injustice that plagues our reality. But fortunately, it's also one you can solve with this week's Games Under £20 sale. And if you're looking to spend your money on a title that you absolutely cannot go wrong with, then Gears 5 should be at the top of your list. The latest entry in this iconic cover-based shooter series serves up everything you've come to expect. Slick gunplay, epic storytelling, intense set pieces, guys called Carmine, all of it. This time around, the series has also scooped up some sweet next-gen visuals which allow Xbox Series X and S gamers to carve up their foes in smooth 120 FPS. Whether you're snatching it off Xbox Game Pass or taking advantage of this week's 67% discount, Gears 5 is just the sort of blockbuster the summer months were made for.
But if you're the sort of person who loves getting the absolute biggest possible bang for your buck, then why not spend some time watching godly aliens fire laser beams from their hands and kick each other through mountains in Dragon Ball FighterZ. This arcade-style fighting game has stacked its roster with characters from all across the beloved anime series, from iconic figures like Goku and Vegeta to slightly more obscure fighters like Jiren the Grey and the cat-shaped fella who is an actual god, Beerus. It's always really handy having one of them around. There's actually even more Dragon Ball based fun on the way soon, with the asymmetrical multiplayer game The Breakers arriving this October. But until then, you can Kamehameha to your heart's content in Dragon Ball FighterZ, which is now 85% off and available on Xbox Game Pass.
Finally, we've got the perfectly cheap and nasty thriller for a Friday night, God's Trigger. This ultra-violent top-down action game involves a demon and an angel who team up to try and stop the apocalypse. But mostly it involves a simply outrageous amount of action. Tear through rooms full of enemies using a treasure trove of weaponry, splattering the walls with whatever's left of those that got in your way. Switch between the two characters at any time, or even better, tag in a buddy to fight alongside you in co-op for twice as much carnage. Either way, this bloody tale is full of fast-paced combat and gratuitous gore, and has now had 60% sliced off his price tag too.
Whether you're looking for some cheap thrills or just to prove your Chivo hunting skills, you are bound to find something in this week's sale, so don't forget to tell us what it is down in the comments. This video was brought to you by MultiVersus, the free-to-play platform fighter that lets you team up with iconic characters like Batman, Arya Stark, Shaggy, Bugs Bunny. All your favorites are here as you fight to save the multiverse. Pair up your favorites in MultiVersus 2v2 mode and find which dynamic duo works best for you. MultiVersus supports crossplay and cross-progression across its available platforms, and with even more characters, maps, modes, and cosmetics coming over the following months, you'll want to get in on the ground floor now. MultiVersus is free to play right now. Bye!
Computer, strange energy signature detected. What's my location?
Hey, dude! What's going on here?
Where am I? What's up, Doc?
Look out!
Hey!